Alrighty, we're back for the first round of the Legacy Daily. Our opponent won the die roll, has not yet acted, so we're going to take a pause until he comes back. Alright, our opponent is here, and we are ready to go. This hand is a little suspect, but I find it hard to mulligan very many hands with Ponder in them, as well as Brainstorm. We also have Spell Pierce and Force Will if he's another combo deck, so I think we're going to keep it. We have half of our combo already, although sometimes, Show and Tell in an Emrakul is not good enough. So, alright, well, Gitaxian Probe means he's probably playing a combo deck. There's the possibility he's playing Young Pyromancers, so our Force Will could be very good or very bad, just depending on what he does. So he's taking a quick look, and we don't really want to Force Will this, obviously. So now if he follows that with a Cabal Therapy, it's not great for us, but if he's playing a combo deck and takes Force Will, but I think we might be okay with the Spell Pierce, and we have some dig spells to hopefully find another copy if he is a combo deck. And Underground Sea still could be like Grixis Delver or potentially a combo deck. Kind of hoping he's a Storm deck, because I played against Storm like 3 times at the last Legacy Open, and honestly it was pretty fun. Like, it's hard to express exactly why it's fun, but it is. It's this weird struggle back and forth where we're both combo decks, we're both trying to force through whatever it is we're trying to do. Yeah, and I apologize, my opponent's taken a while on his first turn, but sometimes that's how it is in Legacy. You have a lot of really tough decisions to make. So, alright, looks like he chose to not shuffle his library, so he liked his top 3. Let's go to our turn. And we drew a Misty Rainforest. We'll go ahead and play that since we already have a Misty Rainforest. Or not. Okay. Well, we'll move to our second main phase and then play Misty Rainforest. I'm going to go and play my Lotus Petal. I'm not going to play my Ponder yet. I'm going to save that until next turn so I can potentially play Ponder and then be able to shuffle away a card. There aren't too many bug decks that play Gitaxian Probe, and he's duressing. So what we're going to do actually is we're going to cast Spell Pierce, I think, on the duress and keep protecting our Force of Will. This may be worse overall than just brainstorming away our Spell Pierce and Force of Will, but I kind of want to save my Brainstorm for next turn, so I could potentially Brainstorm and then Ponder. And he played Tropical, so there's no danger of, or no real danger of him duressing or Cabal Therapying us this turn. He would have to play and burn a Lotus Petal to do so. Alright, so we got to take a sneak peek at our peeled Misty Rainforest, but don't think it's going to go off this turn. Alright. Let's go ahead and Brainstorm, and we get rid of some extra crappers. We can't play the Sneak Attack this turn. We're going to keep the Ponder Force Will and probably just be looking at forcing whatever he plays. Play the Misty that he knows about, and then next turn hopefully he doesn't have another discard spell, maybe he tries to go for it, and then we get to Sneak Attack and Emrakul kill him. Yeah, we'll let this Brainstorm resolve. It's occasionally dangerous to let Brainstorm resolve against Storm decks. It gives them a lot more information and lets them use Lion's Eye Diamond more efficiently. But I would rather use Force of Will on the turn where he's trying to combo as opposed to the turn before where he's casting a Brainstorm without a fetch line in play. So here he's probably going to go get another Underground Sea. He may, if he plays a discard spell, I may just Force Will it, honestly, because he's going to take Force Will regardless, and I'd rather him not take the Sneak Attack, because if he can't kill me this turn, This is actually a brainstorm that I kind of want to counter, because he's going to go... I don't know how easy it is for him to combo with just 4 cards. Like, his 4 cards could be, like, Lion's Eye, Tutor, something else, but I think I actually do want to counter this one, because he's gotten to shuffle something away, and there's a reasonable chance he actually draws a discard spell. If he had a discard spell, he would have just cast it, I think, before the brainstorm. But we're going to go ahead and hit the brainstorm, hope we don't die, and then try to 15 him next turn with the sneak attack. Now, if he does have a discard spell that he was saving for after the brainstorm, then he'll probably name Imracool, which kind of stinks, but kind of just hoping I don't die. It is a faint hope. Alright, well, we did not die, so that's good. Alright, well, we're going to go ahead and fetch on upkeep and get rid of the 2 lands that are on top of our deck. And then we're going to try to kill him. Storm decks don't usually play any sort of counter spells or anything, so let's go ahead and play sneak attack and hit him for 15. Yeah, the brainstorm that we had earlier was pretty good. Hitting a 2-mana land / Lotus Petal is awesome, and also the sneak attack to kill him immediately, which is awesome too. Basically kept him from, or it eliminated an entire turn as opposed to a show and tell, which would have been pretty bad. Or not necessarily bad, but not nearly as good. Alright, so in this matchup, we want all of our disruption. We don't need omniscience. We don't usually need to... it's really hard to 3-card... or it's really hard to 2-card combo the Storm decks, let alone 3-card combo them with omniscience and these guys. So we're going to cut the omnisciences in favor of ley lines. And Emrakul is not fantastic against Storm, so we're going to cut some number of them. Probably just 1. We do... sometimes just kill them with a sneak attack with an Emrakul, as you could see that game. But for the most part, my primary game plan in this matchup is to just get a ley line early on and then show and tell in a Gristlebrand. Most of the other spells in the deck are pretty good. I could potentially cut 1 more copy of Emrakul. If I get a ley line, the games are going to go pretty long, so if I somehow do need an Emrakul, I can find it. But I want all my disruption. I want all the things that speed me up as much as possible, so I don't really want to bring in, or I don't really want to cut any of the cards. Like, so really on the chopping block is the 4th sneak attack and the 3rd Emrakul, and I think it's actually the sneak attack. He could potentially have Pithy Needle, which could name Gristlebrand or sneak attack. So I think we're just gonna try to, rely on Leyline of Sanctity. Some Storm decks do have Swan Song afterboard, which are annoying, but we can fight through those. We don't really want Pyroclasm. I don't suspect that he has Empty the Warrens, and if he does, maybe we can bring it in for game 2, but just a show and tell, putting in Gristlebrand is usually good enough to be Empty the Warrens. Yeah, alright, let's go. Alright, game 2, and... oh, this is tough. I know this is a 1-lander. It actually looks like an auto mulligan, but hands like this are not that bad against Storm. We have a way to buy us a lot of time with Force of Will, and we also have Show and Tell Gristlebrand, which is our primary objective. The problem is if we don't draw a 2-mana land or a blue producing land, or basically any land in the deck. If we don't draw a land in the first 2 draws, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. And I don't really want to burn the Lotus Petal to cast Ponder or Brainstorm. And this hand also gets significantly worse if he just goes turn 1 Duress. So I think I'm going to mulligan. I get an extra shot to try to hit a Leyline of Sanctity, so we're going to mulligan again. And this hand is not very good, but I guess I'll keep it. If he turn 1 discard spells me, if it's a Duress, that could be pretty bad, but luckily it's not any of that, and we get to brainstorm potentially in a turn or two if he's not really putting any pressure on us. It's hard to say, you know, like the storm decks can accumulate pressure all in a single turn, so it's hard to say he's not putting pressure on us. But you know, if I brainstorm during his end of turn 2 and I don't hit a big creature, I don't waste a brainstorm, but I brainstorm lock myself against storm, which is kind of gross. Alright, so we're gonna play Volcanic and a Lotus Petal, and I'm gonna go ahead and cast Ponder, but I'm not gonna cast the brainstorm yet. If he hits me with a discard spell, ooh, there's an Emrakul and a Sneak Attack, so hopefully he doesn't kill us on turn 3, or turn 2 or turn 3, and that'll let us go Show and Tell in a Sneak Attack and attack with Emrakul. But that's assuming that we don't need to brainstorm from yeah, I'm not actually really liking these cards. Like, I understand that they are ways to close out the game, but at the same time, actually what I can do is just put the land in my hand and then keep the other two. And then if he goes for a discard spell, I actually will just let it resolve. And if he takes Show and Tell, that's fine. I'll just go for the, you know, cast Sneak Attack on turn 3 and then activate on turn 4. Alright, well, here comes a Duress. I think I just let it resolve. If he takes Brainstorm, we will just draw Sneak Attack, pass the turn back. If he takes Show and Tell, we'll just draw Sneak Attack, pass the turn back, cast Sneak Attack on the following turn. Probably Brainstorming and playing the Scalding Tarn, but we'll see. I like to sandbag Brainstorms in this matchup so that I get to, you know, protect them a little bit, or protect various spells a little bit, like Show and Tell or Sneak Attack. But since we do have the Sneak Attack on top, so he does take that. Alright, well, so now what we can just go ahead and do is, since we know there's an Emrakul on top, we're just going to Show and Tell in the Sneak Attack and activate Sneak Attack next turn. And this protects us from Duress, but yeah, we get blown out by Flusterstorm. That stinks. Alright, well, now we're going to be drawing an Emrakul next turn and then an Unknown the turn after that. So our Sneak Attack is going to be a little vulnerable. And we are also very vulnerable if he just combos us. So if it's a Cabal Therapy, he is almost certainly not going to name Sneak Attack. He would have assumed that I had stacked my Ponder so that I was just putting in a fatty. So I guess that's a good thing. I would assume that a Cabal Therapy from him would be naming something like Gristlebrand or Emrakul. But it looks like I may die this turn, so let's see what our opponent does. There's a lot of calculation going on in the Storm player's head, basically every single turn. You know, he's only got 4 cards in hand, and if you haven't played version 4 yet, it's not as bad as everyone says, but it is way different from version 3. The cards are a lot smaller, which I don't like, but at the same time, I mean, it's not terrible. So, oh, that's gross. Alright, so our opponent basically gets 2 Duresses. He played Infernal Tutor for a Duress, and then cast a Duress, so he has another Duress in hand. Luckily, it's not going to hit anything relevant. So, unfortunately, it was not a Cabal Therapy. Otherwise, I think he would have missed almost assuredly. Looks like he has so much disruption this game, though, that he may be out of ways to actually combo me. So, we can hopefully just draw a way to put this Emrakul into play, or potentially a Brainstorm or something to dig for some action. We are in a lot of trouble, not gonna lie. So here's Gataxian Pro from him, going to 16. Now I did play an Infernal Tutor, which could mean that he just has another Infernal Tutor in hand, but is kind of lacking on the rituals. So out of his 4 cards, one is a Duress, the other is probably an Infernal Tutor, otherwise just going to get a Duress seems pretty loose. You know, he's basically just trying to empty his hand, so that if he does draw rituals, or enough rituals, he can play the Infernal Tutor, go get Ad Nauseam, and draw a bunch of cards. So, alright, we need some business. Well, that's some business. We'll go and play the 5th land so we can potentially cast the Force of Will, and but, you know, there's a pretty high probability he just casts Duress. So, and we're not going to fetch and cast Force of Will if he tries to Duress us, because what that does is makes it so that future Brainstorms and Ponders are a lot worse. And he's going to be taking the Force of Will Duress anyway, so there's no reason to cast the Force of Will. Alright, so he decides to cast the Duress. We're just going to let that resolve. And now we are just as vulnerable as we were last turn. And we have very little information about his hand, other than I think that one of his 4 cards is an Infernal Tutor. So take that however you want. Really hoping that I draw a Brainstorm, or a Ponder, or a Show and Tell, or a Sneak Attack, or something. Flusterstorm is pretty good, not gonna lie. As you can see, the power level of Leyline of Sanctity in this matchup, just a permanent that disrupts him as opposed to things in our hand, is just so much better, because he has to have you know, a very specific thing like a Chain of Vapor to deal with it. Plus, being able to actually have our Force of Wills and Spell Pierces actually be useful is not terrible either. So, well, he's given us a lot of time. His deck turned into a heavy disruptive element, or turned into a lot of disruption. So, alright, well, what we can do is put pressure on him this turn by casting the Show and Tell. That's going to let us shuffle away the other 2. Alright, well, we'll draw that. We'll just go ahead and cast it and hope we don't get Flusterstormed again. If we do get Flusterstormed again, there's not a whole lot we can do. We are very low on resources, and the odds of us dying are pretty high. Well, we get an Emrakul. He gets nothing, but he basically has a combo us now. Otherwise, he is threatened to lose all of his lands and go to 1 life. But that's the best we got. You know, that Ponder was pretty good. It could have been a Sneak Attack. Sneak Attack actually would have been theoretically worse, because we had to take an extra damage down to 18, meaning his Storm count would have to be a little bit higher to kill us. Or sorry, a little bit lower to kill us. And also, the Sneak Attack is a one-shot pony, whereas the Show and Tell keeps it in play. You know, he would go to 1, but he would get a chance to rebuild, and Storm doesn't really need all that many lands to kill you. So, well, let's see if we get comboed this game. Alright, our opponent looks like he's going to try to go for it. There's a Cabal Ritual. Let's see what else he's got. Red mana. Maybe that's a Past in Flames? If he goes for Past in Flames, that just lets him, I guess, ponder to try to find something relevant, because he doesn't have any rituals other than the Cabal Ritual in his graveyard. So, alright, well, he's going down to 2 black floating, so he's gonna probably Cabal Ritual again, maybe cast a Ponder or a Brainstorm or Gataxian Probe. Let's see what happens. Now, I assume he has to go for it, right? Like, that's kind of the pressure that this deck puts on him with the Emrakul. If he doesn't go for it, he's going to lose all his lands and basically be dead. So, there's no real use for him to wait a turn. So, kind of hoping he limps into nothing, or potentially just has like a bad ad nauseum turn. But I assume it's just going to ponder, and he's probably just trying to hit a Lion's Eye Diamond would be the card that I would suspect that he needs the most, because he still has a reasonable number of cards in hand, and he can't cast the Infernal Tutor that I think he has without it. Although the Past in Flames makes a little more sense now. It's possible that when he cast the Infernal Tutor earlier, he had the Past in Flames in hand as the other card that we thought was the Infernal Tutor. But Lion's Eye Diamond here would let him crack LED, discard his hand, go up to 8 mana, cast Infernal Tutor down to 6, go get Ad Nauseam, potentially go down to around 4 life. Usually they don't want to chance it if they don't have to hit the Tendrils of Agony. But yeah, he's got some tools to work with. I'm basically just hoping he bricks on having a Lion's Eye Diamond at this point. Otherwise, he's going to get to draw a bunch of cards and probably kill me. But this is only game 2, and we still have all of game 3 to go. Alright, well, he chose to not shuffle his library, and he hit his Lion's Eye Diamond, so this is probably going to be the big one. Probably crack it for blue, I would assume. That way, if he... Let's see, so he has 8 mana, tutors, Ad Nauseam, goes down to just 1 mana floating. He would probably leave a black mana floating, that way he can hit Dark Rituals and things like that, but it's not super easy for Storm decks without Chrome Mox to combo kill you with just 1 mana floating. They basically have to hit a Lotus Petal or Dark Ritual. Although, no, never mind, he hasn't played a land yet this turn, so he still has that out. He is playing a little slow, but we'll just call it meticulous. He is playing meticulously. Alright, so he decides to crack the Lion's Eye for red. I'm not sure I agree with that. And he discarded an extra tutor and a Brainstorm and the Tendrils. Oh, I see. So he actually had to tutor for ritual so he could flashback Past in Flames to cast so he could recast a bunch of stuff and then cast Tendrils. And I think that should be enough Storm to kill me. So yeah, his hand was actually pretty awkward. But yeah, so that's gonna be game. I'll just go ahead and concede. Alright. Now, we will hopefully have a ley line and be able to kill him with that. Interesting game, for sure. I don't think we want any of the cards we sided out. As you can see, the Emrakul there was pretty awkward. If it had been Gristlebrand, we would have been able to draw a bunch of cards. However, when we pondered, we did see the Gristlebrand, but I don't think we could have afforded to wait that extra turn. So we'll just submit as is, and hopefully get him this game. Yes, we would like to play first. I will keep. This hand's pretty powerful. We have a Spell Pierce to protect our hand from a Duress or Cabal Therapy, and a Force of Will to protect us from his combo. And we have a turn 3 Gristlebrand. Possibly a turn 2 if we draw a Lotus Petal or one of our 5 mana lands, so we have like 9 outs. But I don't want to ponder on turn 1. I would much rather hold up Spell Pierce, I think. The odds of him duressing us are reasonably high. Next turn, if he doesn't cast a discard spell, then we can play Ponder and have a Spell Pierce on backup. Maybe even draw into a blue spell to have Force and Spell Pierce on backup. So yeah, so he's going to probe us and see that it's going to be pretty hard for him to fight through this. Now, for the most part, when you have a Gristlebrand in play, and this is something that the last time I was on camera at an SAG Open, I did poorly, is I cast a Show and Tell on turn 1, put in a Gristlebrand, and promptly died the next turn. Now, the way that happened is that I drew 7 immediately, trying to hit a Lotus Petal so that I could cast the Spell Pierce that was still in my hand. However, that resulted in my opponent being able to duress me, take Cabal Therapy, my Force of Will, And Sensei's Divine Top. We don't worry too much about that one. That might mean he's playing Doomsday out of the board, which would be kind of cool. But alright, well, we drew a sneak attack. That one's not relevant. So I'm hoping for a blue card in a land, and we found it. So we are going to stack it so that we draw the probe. That way we can have Force Will back up, as well as Spell Pierce back up, and then next turn we get to go for the gold. And we have the option to either show and tell oh wow, he must have kept a Mana Light hand. We have the option to put in Gristlebrand or a sneak attack off the show and tell. I think it's pretty obvious that we just want the we want the we want the Gristlebrand so that we can potentially draw a bunch of cards and counter all of his stuff. I'm basically spell piercing whatever card he plays here because next turn we're going to be tapped out for Gristlebrand, and I would much rather have the ability to slow him down. You know, if he casts a Ponder or something. I might even do it if it's a Gitaxian Probe, honestly. I was kind of hoping he kept a Landlight hand and bricked. That would have been awesome. Alright, well this actually makes me think. So, last game we got obliterated by Flusterstorm. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and pay 2 life, look at his hand, and we have a Brainstorm top of our deck, so I don't actually mind drawing Brainstorm. And he does not have a Flusterstorm. Alright, so cool. And his hand is not great, but he does have Sensei's top, so we are just going to go ahead and cast Show and Tell and hope we don't die. Now he could Brainstorm into a discard spell and you know, some combo pieces. Oh no, he has a Flusterstorm on top of his deck. That's really good. Alright, well we still have access to Force of Will, so we're not going to die next turn, more than likely. That's gross though. That is gross. Or he has Karakas, maybe? Maybe that's why he drew a top? Or he was trying to draw the Flusterstorm? Huh. I don't know what's going on. Maybe he just wanted a fresh Brainstorm? I'm very confused. Okay. Well, maybe it's Chain of Vapor or something, but we're not going to draw any cards. We're not going to make it easier for him to Storm kill us, even though his hand has Passive Flames, so... You know, honestly, this may have... You know, I always think in a vacuum when it comes to stuff like this. It actually was probably correct in this very specific situation to draw 7 and to try to hit a Lotus Petal. Yeah, so he's going to take our Force of Will and probably try to combo off. We have 14 draws to hit a Force of Will. That'll put us to 2, though, and we'll probably just have to counter Passive Flames, but... Kind of hoping he just has nothing. What we can do on our turn is, if we do survive, is draw 7, try to hit something that taps for 2, or land in a Lotus Petal, and then go for a sneak attack Emrakul. Huh. I'm really hoping that my draw 14 is not a gigantic brick. That would be pretty sad. But, you know, we have to let him go off. We don't really have a choice. We just have to wait until he gets to his last spell. Let's see. So far he's cast Duress and Cabal Ritual. Or sorry, Duress and Dark Ritual, now Cabal Ritual. Although he did not have Threshold when he cast that, so that's good. So he's casting Passive Flames with like nothing floating, just a black. I think I'm okay with that, actually. He can cast Duress again, but I don't really care about that. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ooh, actually, that might be bad. Yeah, we may actually just get Tendrils from hand here, but I don't think it's quite lethal yet. Maybe he has to probe. Wow, yeah, if he just naturally drew Tendrils, I'm going to be pretty upset. But I don't think we could have played around it. Okay, we can play around this, though. Alright, we're going to draw 14 and try to counter that. Or at least draw 7 first and see. We do only have 3 Force Wheels left in our deck, so there is a reasonable chance we miss. Well, at least we drew a Ley Line of Sanctity. We gotta go for it, though. Yeah, we missed. That happens. Alright, well, that's almost exactly what happened to me on camera the other day, but I think we played this game about as good as we could have. It's possible that we should have drawn 7 the first time to try to get Spell Pierce, but for lowest battle to cast a Spell Pierce. We also could have waited a turn, had Spell Pierce and Force on D, and then tried to go Gristlebrand, Sneak Attack, draw into Emrakul. This mainly just shows you how freaking powerful Leyline would have been if I had just drawn it, because he played I guess the probe, so he had perfect information, and he had the duress, so unfortunately we're just dead, so we'll just concede. Alright, well that is round 1. Sorry it took so long, my opponent took forever. We'll be back for round 2 in just a few.